I used to believe in forever. When I married Emily, I thought I had finally found the one person who would stand beside me through every storm life could possibly throw. We had the perfect wedding, or at least, perfect in my eyes. It wasn't about the grand hall or the expensive decor, it was about her walking down that aisle, looking at me like I was the only man in the world who mattered. That gaze alone made every sleepless night of working 2 jobs just to save for our future worth it. Emily and I met in college. I wasn't the smoothest guy back then, awkward, quiet, focused too much on grades and part-time shifts. She was different. She had this energy, this laugh that turned heads, this way of lighting up rooms. I couldn't understand what she saw in me, but she claimed it was my steadiness, my drive, the way I made her feel safe in a world where everyone else was too busy chasing thrills. The first years of our marriage were golden. We rented a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours. We had late-night cooking disasters, spontaneous movie marathons, and mornings where we argued about who stole the blanket but ended up laughing about it. We were building dreams together, slowly, carefully, brick by brick. I took on extra hours at work. I wanted to make sure she never had to worry about bills or a future where we couldn't have the home we always talked about. She worked too, but not as much. She wanted to focus on finding herself, and I supported that. I believed a marriage wasn't about keeping score, it was about lifting each other up. But somewhere along the way, the balance shifted. It started small. Emily began staying out late with friends from work. She'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, her laughter tinged with a nervousness I couldn't quite place. She was glued to her phone more often, locking it when she never used to. I brushed it off at first. We were both adults, and trust was the foundation we built everything on. Until trust started feeling like naivety. One night, she told me she was going to a girls' night. I didn't question it. Why would I? But then, around midnight, I realized she left her tablet at home. It buzzed with a notification. Normally, I respected her privacy, but something in me hesitated. That buzzing wouldn't stop, and my gut told me to look. What I saw broke me. Messages. Dozens of them. With someone saved as Ryan. Flirty words. Promises. Pictures I wish I could erase from memory. Words like, "can't wait to see you again," and "he'll never find out." I felt the air leave my lungs. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the tablet. I paced the living room for an hour, waiting for her to return, my mind replaying every late night, every dismissive smile, every excuse. When she finally stumbled in around 2 a.m., her makeup smudged and her laugh forced, I confronted her. "Who's Ryan?" I asked, holding up the tablet. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her silence told me everything. It was true. My wife, the woman I had built my life around, was cheating on me. The days after that were a blur. She admitted to it, eventually. Said it wasn't serious. Said she was confused and felt neglected. That last one hit me like a cruel joke. Neglected? I had been working overtime, breaking my back to provide for us, to give her the life she dreamed of. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around with some coworker who probably didn't even know her middle name. I should have walked away right then. I should have packed her things, signed the papers, and erased her from my life. But love makes fools of us all. I wanted to believe she was sorry. That she would change. That we could fix what she broke. So I gave her another chance. We tried counseling. We tried date nights. We tried pretending like everything wasn't shattered. But the thing about trust? Once it's broken, every little thing starts to feel suspicious. Every time she glanced at her phone, I wondered if it was him. Every time she was late, my chest tightened. I was no longer a husband, I was a detective in my own home, searching for proof that the woman I loved wouldn't betray me again. And then she did. I found out a few months later, not because she confessed, but because one of her friends slipped up. Apparently, Ryan wasn't just a fling. He was her escape. He was the man she ran to whenever our marriage felt too much like responsibility and not enough like excitement. That was the day I stopped fighting for us. I told her I wanted a divorce. She cried, screamed, begged me to reconsider. She swore it was over with him, that she realized her mistake. But I couldn't unsee those messages. I couldn't unhear her excuses. I couldn't keep burning myself just to keep her warm. The divorce was messy, as divorces usually are. She tried to guilt-trip me, tried to paint me as the bad guy. But I stayed calm. I gave her what was fair, nothing more, nothing less. When the papers were signed, I walked out of that courthouse feeling hollow but free. For months, I struggled. Nights were long, mornings were heavier. I questioned my worth, my choices, my ability to ever trust again. But slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding. I focused on myself, on my health, my work, my passions I had neglected for years. And just when I thought the ghosts of my past had settled, just when I felt like I was finally breathing again, she came back. Emily. The woman who had shattered me. The woman who traded a marriage for cheap thrills. The woman who thought the grass was greener on the other side, only to find it scorched and barren. She showed up at my door one evening, her eyes red, her smile gone, her confidence stripped away. And with a voice that cracked, she said the words I never thought I'd hear. I made a mistake. I regret everything. Can we try again? When Emily showed up at my door that night, I didn't answer right away. I watched her through the peephole, my chest heavy, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face before she could even speak. Another part of me, the part that still remembered her laugh, her smile, the way she used to look at me in the beginning, wanted to listen. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. She looked nothing like the woman I had divorced a year ago. Back then, she was radiant, always dressed like she was ready for a magazine cover, her confidence dripping from every word. Now, her hair was a mess, her clothes looked thrown together, and her eyes were sunken, as though she hadn't slept properly in weeks. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. I didn't invite her in. I just stood there, blocking the doorway, waiting. "I ended things with Ryan," she continued. "It was a mistake. Everything I did. I can't live with it anymore. I thought I wanted something exciting, but all I found was emptiness. I want us back. I want you back." Her words hit me like a cold wind. A year ago, I might have broken down right there. A year ago, I would have wanted to believe her. But I wasn't the same man she left behind. In the months after the divorce, I had to rebuild myself from ashes. I started running every morning, lifting weights, pushing my body as hard as I could just to drown the noise in my head. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during the marriage. I even traveled for work, something Emily always hated because it meant time apart. And slowly, piece by piece, I found myself again. Meanwhile, I had heard whispers about her life. Word gets around in our circle. Ryan wasn't the dream man she thought he was. He was a charmer, sure, but also a liar, a gambler, and a man with no real ambition beyond living in the moment. They had moved in together for a while, but within months, she was paying his bills, cleaning up after his messes, and discovering what it really meant to be with someone who didn't care about building a future. The same friends who once envied her boldness now pitted her. They told me she looked drained, that Ryan had cheated on her more than once, that she seemed lost. So here she was, standing at my door, asking for the man she betrayed to save her from the wreckage she chose. I took a deep breath. "Emily, why now?" Her lip trembled. Because I finally see what I lost. You loved me more than anyone ever could. You worked for us, you believed in us, and I threw it all away for nothing. Ryan, he was a mistake. He never cared. And now I just want to come home. Home. That word almost made me laugh. She had torn down that home brick by brick, and now she wanted to walk back in as though nothing happened. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply shook my head. Emily, that home doesn't exist anymore. Her face crumpled. She tried to step forward, but I held the door firm. Please, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Just give me one chance to prove I can make it right. But I had given her a chance before. I had given her everything. And she had set it on fire. The truth was, by the time she came crawling back, I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I had already begun to see my own worth, to understand that love without respect is nothing but a slow poison. I closed the door gently, her sobs echoing in the hallway, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. But that wasn't the end. Because Emily wasn't done trying. I thought closing the door on Emily would be the end of it. But I underestimated her persistence. Over the next several weeks, she found every excuse to reach out. First, it was calls, dozens of them, sometimes late at night, sometimes during work hours. I ignored them all. Then came the texts. Please just talk to me. I'm sorry for everything. I can change. I swear I'll be better this time. When silence didn't work, she escalated. She showed up at my gym, at the cafe near my office, even outside my building, waiting like some desperate shadow of the woman she used to be. Part of me almost felt pity. Almost. But then I'd remember those nights she came home smelling of Ryan's cologne, or the smirk she gave me when I confronted her, as if I were just being paranoid. That pity turned into steel in my chest. Still, her presence stirred something in me, conflict. Because despite everything, there were nights I lay awake, wondering if I had truly moved on. Wondering if the love I once felt could ever be rekindled. That doubt grew louder when my parents weighed in. My mother, a woman who believed in forgiveness above all else, called me one evening. Son, she said gently, I saw Emily today. She looked broken. People make mistakes. Maybe this is her way of trying to make it right. I clenched my jaw. Mom, she didn't just make a mistake. She made a choice, over and over again. But she's still the woman you married, she argued. No, I corrected softly. She's the woman I divorced. Even some friends suggested I at least meet with her, just to get closure. But closure wasn't what she was after. She wanted redemption at my expense. And yet, a small voice in me whispered, what if she's truly changed? That question haunted me. I wanted to believe people could learn from their failures. I wanted to believe the Emily standing at my door, crying and begging, wasn't the same Emily who betrayed me. But every time I pictured letting her back in, I remembered the hollow version of myself she left behind. Then came the breaking point. One Saturday morning, I stepped out to grab groceries. There she was, sitting on the curb near my car, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She stood when she saw me, wringing her hands nervously. Please, just 1 hour, she pleaded. 1 hour to talk. If you still want nothing to do with me after that, I'll leave you alone. I promise. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. I was tired of the stalking, the endless cycle. Maybe one conversation would finally put an end to it. So I agreed. We sat in a quiet diner, the same kind of place we used to visit in the early days of our marriage. She stared at the coffee in her hands, her voice trembling. Ryan's gone, she said. He left me with nothing. Not even a goodbye. I wasted everything on him, money, time, dignity. And now, when I look back, all I see is you. The only man who ever truly loved me. I said nothing. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, she continued. But maybe we can try again. I can be better. I want to be better. For you. For us. Her words were rehearsed, but her tears looked real. She was broken in ways I couldn't have imagined back when she walked out on me. And for the first time since she showed up, I really looked at her. Not the woman I married, not the woman who betrayed me, but the woman sitting across from me now, fragile, desperate, full of regret. I realized something then. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was simply done. Because love without trust isn't love. And no amount of tears or apologies could change the fact that she had destroyed both. I placed my coffee down and met her eyes. Emily, I said quietly, I don't hate you. I don't even wish you harm. But I will never be your safety net again. You made your choice, and I've made mine. I've moved on. You should too. Her face crumpled. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. Goodbye, Emily. I stood, left some cash for the coffee, and walked out. That was supposed to be the end. But what I did next, what I chose to do, was something Emily never expected. Walking out of that diner, I felt lighter than I had in years. Emily's tears, her begging, her regret, they didn't stir anger or longing anymore. They stirred clarity. For the first time, I knew exactly what I wanted. But here's the thing, Emily didn't stop. Even after that conversation, she tried again. More texts, more unannounced visits. It was as if she believed if she just begged enough, if she cried hard enough, I would eventually break. So I made a choice. Not out of spite. Not out of revenge. Out of self-respect. I blocked her number. Every platform, every email, gone. I told the building security not to let her in again. And then, the real step, I started living. Because the best response to someone who broke you isn't letting them crawl back. It's showing them you never needed them to stand tall again. I poured myself into work, into fitness, into friendships I had neglected. I traveled more, explored new places, took risks I never would have when I was tied down by someone who constantly drained me. I even started dating, not recklessly, but with intention. Slowly, carefully, I opened my heart to the idea that not everyone would treat me the way Emily had. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Emily had moved out of state. Apparently, Ryan had resurfaced and used her one last time before vanishing for good. She was left alone, struggling to pick up pieces of a life she had shattered with her own hands. Did I feel satisfaction? Maybe a little. But mostly, I felt free. One evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset. Beside me was someone new, a woman who laughed freely, who valued honesty, who didn't see love as a game to be won or lost. And as she leaned into me, I realized I had finally found peace. Emily had wanted to run back to me, but what I did instead was far greater than taking her back or seeking revenge. I chose myself. And that made all the difference.